According to Vladimir Putin, Russia did not invade or annex Crimea. According to him, Russia only went in to defend ethnic Russian speakers. Russia only went in to defend a group of people who never wanted to be part of the very people who orchestrated the 2014 coup d'etat in Ukraine. So during Putin's state visit to India, he was granted an interview, and that was when he made all these revelations. Some we are all aware of. Some, in fact, came as a shock to me, and I learned something new. By the way, before I go deep into this particular story, listen to Putin himself.
But also the basis for what happened when you decided to annex Crimea, your only warm water port, a very important strategic port for Russia, and then Russia was no longer part of G8. Today, the West claims or says that your actions in the recent past is the reason for, and I quote unquote, the isolation of Russia.
We didn't need to seize that important port in Crimea because it was ours already. Our navy had been stationed there under the agreement with Ukraine, which is a fact. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, our fleet remained there regardless. The matter isn't about that, though it's significant, but that's not what we're talking about here. And we did not annex Crimea. I want to emphasize this point. We simply came to help people who didn't want their lives or fate tied to those who staged a coup in Ukraine. They said, "Hey, nationalist extremists took over in Kiev. Did anyone ask us? Okay, we ended up as part of independent Ukraine after the dissolution of the USSR. So be it. History happened like that. Fine, okay. Now we'll live it that way. But we believe that we exist in a democratic state, and if coups happen here with unknown consequences, then we won't accept that. We don't want to live like that." There was a threat, not just of pressure, but of outright violence against the Crimeans. Russia stepped in to help them. How could we do otherwise? If someone believes differently, thinking that Russia would act differently, they're deeply mistaken. We'll always defend our interests and our people.
There are some things, to be honest with you, I was not aware of. This video has educated me a lot. Now, the interviewer claimed that Russia annexed Crimea because of Crimea port, which is strategically important to Russia. The lady is right. This Crimea port is very, very crucial and important to Russia, right? Because when you look at the Sea of Azov, if Ukraine, joins NATO, that will give America an opportunity to place their submarines and warships at the Sea of Azov, targeting Moscow directly. It is very easy to attack Moscow from the Sea of Azov. And part of this reason is the main reason why Crimea is strategically important to Russia. Quick shout out to those of you who hit on the like button even before I ask you to do so. If you've not yet hit on the like button, please hit on the like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. Let's pay attention to Putin's response. He said, after the collapse of the USSR, Russia and Ukraine signed an agreement to allow Russian Navy still operate in the Sea of Azov and in Crimea port. So Russia already have warships and whatever you could possibly think about in Crimea already. So this couldn't be the main reason why they decided to go into Crimea. Now, he said the main reason why Russia went to Crimea was because of this whole 2014 Maidan coup d'etat. The West call it a revolution, right? And we all know it has got nothing to do with a revolution. It was all coup d'etat. Now, remember, the very people who orchestrated this 2014 coup d'etat, their main aim was they asked the ethnic Russians to denounce their ethnicity and take a Ukrainian identity. Remember, that was what started this whole thing. So Putin did not start the Crimea crisis. Russia rather decided to intervene in the crisis. After the collapse of the USSR, many ethnic Russians ended up finding themselves in different countries. Note, Crimea has always been Russia. Crimea has never been Ukraine. It has always been part of Russia historically. Ever since the Russians took, this whole area from the Ottoman Empire, it has been under their control ever since. So historically, everything, these guys are Russians. They are not Ukrainians. And boom, all of a sudden you are asking them to change overnight and become Ukrainians. And they resisted. The main target of these guys were not the Ukrainians. Their main target was Russia. Note that during this so-called revolution, there was some government officials in the midst of this so-called revolution. So their main aim was Russia. They were trying to push this whole democracy thing to Russia. They were trying to create some form of, an uprising in Russia, right? So they will install a so-called democratic leader in Ukraine, talk about democracy, then the Russians will also start agitating for the whole thing. That was their whole plan. Putin is very smart. He knew what these guys were up to. And that is why he decided to step in immediately. He knew the consequences of what these guys were doing. Now, let me give you a clear example. I hope you guys remember the Arab Spring. It started just in one country. And Qassam took advantage of the whole thing. And we all know what happened in the Arab world. Another clear example is even the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917. Remember? The Bolshevik Revolution didn't just end in Russia, but across the whole of Eastern Europe. So most of these so-called revolutions, sometimes they don't just remain where they are. And some have a strategy of taking advantage of crisis and making the whole thing worse. So these guys were aiming Vladimir Putin government. Remember, the Putin witnessed how these guys, under the pretext of democracy, took out Muammar Gaddafi. He watched, under the pretext of democracy, how they took out Saddam Hussein. So Putin has witnessed many government overthrow using the same strategy. Note, all these territories that Russia annexed in Ukraine wanted to be part of Russia already. These guys were already fighting against the Ukrainian government before Russia decided to intervene. Remember, Russia held a referendum. Though the West don't acknowledge the sovereignty of these territories, they still claim that they are part of Ukraine. But by the way, the Russians held a referendum. The point is, even independent analysts all agree that all these territories, if even UN conduct a genuine referendum, these guys will all vote that they want to be part of Russia. Note, the percentage in Crimea was more than 90% in many places across all the territories that Russia has annexed. So the point is, it's not like these guys don't want to be part of Russia and Putin is trying to force them to be part of Russia. That is not true. Remember, when the Russian armed forces went in, they welcomed them and they fought side by side with the Russian people or the Russian soldiers. So they supported the Russian armed forces to fight against the Ukrainian government. This is one part of the story that the mainstream media just don't want people to know. This is the matter of common sense. These guys are ethnic Russian speakers. Historically, they are Russians. Religiously, they are Russians. So why would they want to be part of a different country and not Russia? No, this is the matter of common sense. Think about it critically. And Putin, that man is too smart. Very smart. You see, when he went into Crimea back in 2014, remember that he took only Crimea. He didn't rush to take the other ethnic Russian speakers' territories. No, he didn't do that. It was rather the ethnic Russian speakers in Ukraine that were calling Russia to come to their defense. Because when Putin annexed Crimea back in 2014, he really developed Crimea. He developed Crimea so well. So that led to the ethnic Russian speakers in other regions of Ukraine started agitating that they don't want to be part of Ukraine, they want to be part of Russia. Already, most Ukrainian government decided to neglect the ethnic Russian-speaking side of Ukraine. They decided not to, develop these territories. And when Russia took Crimea and developed Crimea, then the other side realized that if we join Russia, we would develop far better than being on the Ukrainian side. Well, let's talk about other issues. Recently, it is blow for blow between America and the European Union. These guys are divided. They don't know the direction to take. EU wants this, America wants something completely different. So these guys are divided over the peace, this whole peace plan of the war in Ukraine. So, according to Bloomberg said America is urging many European countries to vote against the EU decision to use Russian frozen assets as reparations loan for Ukraine. Now, according to experts, America is trying to prevent this because they believe that at this critical time of negotiating peace, trying to basically take Russian money is going to disrupt the whole process. Clearly, we can all see that the Trump administration is trying to restore peace between America and Russia. I believe that the Americans realize that they are fighting an unnecessary war, because I don't know why Russia would be at war with America currently. It doesn't make any sense, because today Russia is not a threat to America in any way. So why don't they focus on the real threat? And Trump has said this repeatedly, that it is a big mistake to allow Russia and China unite against America. It is absolutely a big mistake, because America currently cannot fight on two war fronts. Fighting against China, at the same time you are fighting against Russia, two superpowers. Russia is not a threat to America economically. China is the biggest threat to America. And I believe that the Trump administration is trying to prevent the very mistake that Hitler did in Second World War by fighting on two fronts. Part of the reason why Stalin refused to believe German invasion was because he believed that Stalin wouldn't be foolish enough to start a second front against the Soviet Union whilst he was fighting against the West. Because according to Stalin, he believed that that was going to destroy the German army completely. And he was right. And I think Trump is smart enough to understand that fighting against these two superpowers at the same time is going to be a lost war for the United States. United States can never win against these two superpowers at the same time. Remember, I have spoken a lot about this whole Ukrainian refugee crisis around the whole world. Most European countries don't want these Ukrainian refugees again. They want them to go back. Little did I expect Israel to do the same thing. Now, currently in Israel, Ukrainian refugees, their time is up, and Israeli officials has refused to renew their visas for them, meaning they want them to go back. Now, this is not just Israel. I've read multiple articles of these incidents happening across the whole of Europe. Even America want most of these Ukrainian refugees back. Germany the same thing, Greece the same thing, Poland the same thing. So you see, we will fight till the last Ukrainian. Just 3.5 years, they are fed up with Ukraine. It's just sad that these Ukrainian leaders decided to sacrifice Ukraine in this manner. Ukraine is just a victim of power struggle between the East and West. Mainly Russia and NATO. Ukraine is being sacrificed for no reason. I don't get it. Why can't the leaders of Ukraine realize this? Thank you once again for watching this video till the very end. What do you think? Let me know down in the comment section. Your opinion is very, very important. Once again, words can't describe our appreciation. Shalom. See you guys in the next episode.